Live at cable news. We're curious to see what everybody leads with this morning. Not that we're just lambs, not just we're lemmings, not just we lead with what other people lead with, but I'm curious to see what cable news is going to lead with here at the top of the hour, 9 Eastern time. Good morning. This is the morning meeting. Matt Gorman, Jaime Moore with us here, gentlemen. Happy New Year. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to
Um,
be here.
Well, this program is based on the network news division's morning meetings, and often, if the network has its morning meeting at 9 o'clock Eastern, they'll have a lot of video monitors in the conference room where the main meeting takes place, and everybody will be glancing up to see what cable's leading with. So Fox or CNN looks like it's leading with the Brown shooting,
Hmm.
which is an interesting choice. Videos released yesterday from the alleged shooter, and Fox is leading with. The president cabinet briefs Congress on Venezuela. And I don't know what Morning Joe has on. It's a little confusing. I just saw Yoda. Anyway, take that down. We'll keep monitoring it. We've got lots of stories to cover with you. As always, we look forward to your participation. If you're here on the two-way platform, whether you've been here many times or your first time here and you want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. We'll get to you all in just a bit. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, we love your participation passively as you watch in the old-fashioned one way. But what we don't like is when you put smack in the chat. And again, I have to spend my entire afternoon going through and marking everything, labeling everything that's smack. I have to rank 1 through 10. 1 is a minimum smack. 10 is maximum smackitude. And it's an extraordinary labor-intensive process. The more smack in the chat, the more my afternoon is wasted. So please, no smack in the chat, if for no other reason than to allow me to spend my afternoon reading Chaucer or doing something else. We're gonna start with the day book as always. Interesting at the White House, two events of a cryptic nature. First of all, the new media pool. Can you put that up? This is the White House pool. New media pool, John Fredericks Media Network. Matt Gorman, I know you know what that is. Please tell everyone about the John Fredericks Media Network.
The John Fredericks Media Network. That beats me, actually. I do not know what that
All
is.
right, we'll be Googling. And then,
Yeah.
Haima, you know the secondary TV pool, Lindell TV. That's Mike Lindell,
No,
gubernatorial candidate. Anyway, two interesting choices in the pool. And as I said, two interesting events. 2:30, the president is signing executive orders, currently closed press in the Oval. We know that could open up at any time. But maybe the more interesting event, 11 o'clock this morning. Boy, this will be widely featured on Two-Way tonight. Press briefing by Caroline Leavitt, and it says other cabinet. Now, is Caroline Leavitt in the cabinet? Did I miss her elevation to cabinet status? She'd be the first White House press secretary with cabinet level status. I don't know. Anyway, it says other cabinet officials. We've been unable to determine who that is or what that's about, and perhaps it'll be about Venezuela, but we shall see. That could be an interesting event we'll cover. Don't know what the vice president's doing. At some point today, the secretaries of state, defense, and others from the administration head up to the Hill to brief again on the Venezuela operation. House and Senate House Republicans and Democrats having their separate weekly meetings right now, after which you'll see sequential press conferences from the leadership. House Republicans at 10, Democrats at 10:45. Hearing with three Republican Minnesota state legislators at 10 o'clock on the Minnesota federal funds fraud matter. Not sure what insight they'll provide. That's the House Oversight Committee. House is trying to deal with appropriates and with health care. Lots going on health care in the Hill. We'll talk about that on both House and Senate. And those who want a deal are more bullish this morning than they've been throughout the process, really. 220, interesting time for a press event, probably because of senatorial schedules. Tim Kaine, Rand Paul, two longtime proponents of Congress pretending it's a co-equal branch on war powers, or maybe even a supreme branch on war powers, having a press conference without cameras, what we call a pen and pad briefing. In the internet age, I can't believe they're still doing pen and pad briefings, but they are, to talk about the war powers resolution that they have. And two 2028 events today. A potential 2028 candidate, Andy Beshear, who still has a day job as the Kentucky governor, delivers his State of the Commonwealth address to his legislature at 2 Eastern time. Full coverage of that on Two-Way tonight, to see if people can stay awake through anything. And then Rahm Emanuel is doing a town hall meeting in Mississippi on education and literacy this evening. Let's just start with this a little bit off the breaking news. But Haima, town halls. I understand in the olden days why there were town halls. Should candidates still be doing town halls? Like, what do they get out of doing a town hall?
Yeah, for sure. I love town halls still. And it's a couple of things. You think about someone like Rahm Emanuel, who is a brilliant messenger and someone who's going to be on TV every day for the next 6 to 10 months. He's going to be able to go into these town halls and sort of garner at least some sentiment of the Democratic Party that he can pass along. Topics that are going to be talked about. One thing we would do with Hillary Clinton in 2016, you give people the mic and let them ask their own questions and you go back to the table and you sort of rank what's been asked that day. And so it's really helpful, actually. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of those this year.
Matt Gorman, do you have your candidates do town halls?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a press event. Let's just be honest here. Like, and I would have the
The
presidential.
citizens are props, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest here. No one really in this information age really going in curious and waiting for that town hall with Rahm Emanuel to see what he thinks about any other topic or anybody else. They're helpful on a presidential level because they get
Yeah.
coverage.
Yeah.
The only way they go, the only way they're in any way notable on the statewide or congressional levels when they go haywire. So I don't think they're where they're
Yeah.
worth it on the
Yeah.
congressional level. But they also like they're good just to build nimbleness. Everything is media prep. Everything is prep for debates, really. So this, you'll see this. Your first town hall is so much worse than your 50th, which is so much worse than your 100th. So it builds muscle memory because you never know what you're going to get in these things. It could be really good questions, could be cranks, and you got to be nimble enough to parry, answer good questions, and also just be personable with people, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where you
Yeah.
can be authentic. So it's helpful.
Yeah. All right.
And
We'll
if, and
talk.
if, and if
Go
you're
ahead.
if you're a mayor, you're going to do those 2 or 3 times a month. So it's still useful for those local offices as well.
Yep. Okay. We'll talk more. Thank you for both, gentlemen. We'll talk about Rom later in the program, but first, quick word from a sponsor, and then we'll get into our first topic, Venezuela. The good folks at Lean, one of our sponsors, want to help you get the year off to a healthier start without fad diets, juice cleanses, cabbage soup. They're always telling me to trash cabbage soup. I'm not sure why, but I'm willing to. I'm game for the good folks there. Average person, when they hit 60. They've lost and regained over the course of their lives several hundred pounds up and down. Weight cycling, half of America does it, not healthy. Lose 10, gain 10, lose 10, gain 10. Bottom line, most people need help losing weight, and this is a way to do it. Lean helps you maintain healthy blood sugar, which is important, helps you control appetite and craving, and it burns fat by converting it to energy, and that keeps weight off. So 20% off on all the products. If you want to try a new way to lose weight, go to takelean.com and enter the promo code 2WMM, 2WMM. Arguably the worst promo code in the history of promo codes because I have trouble saying it. Two-way MM, morning meeting, two-way MM, 2WMM, takelean.com, promo code 2WMM for 20% off. Thank you for attention to that matter. All right. On Venezuela, this morning, the U.S. seized a ship that had kind of been playing cat and mouse with off the coast of Venezuela. This is in the wake of the president last night saying that the U.S. was going to take some oil from Venezuela and take some of the money and give some of the money to the Venezuelans. Here's the headline on the ship seizure. Reuters broke the story earlier today. It's been matched by others now. U.S. seizing Venezuelan-linked Russian-flagged oil tanker after weeks-long pursuit. I love the phrase cat and mouse because it makes me think of Tom and Jerry just like that. And it's not clear what the president means because the president, as far as I know, doesn't have refinery capacity. So what oil is being taken, where it's going to go, who's going to refine it, who's going to sell it, who's going to do the bookkeeping, all a big mystery. The briefing on the Hill today I already mentioned, so there'll be perhaps a little bit more information about the current operation. And still unclear about what's going on the ground in Venezuela, how much unrest there is. But what seems clear, and Mark Caputo reported this morning on Axios, we reported it here yesterday. Not that we were ahead of Mark. I'm sure we were exactly even talking to the same people. The whole point here now is to have stability. No call for immediate elections. Get the oil process underway. It's been reported the president's going to meet with oil executives, American oil executives, either tomorrow or Friday. Just keep the stability on the ground. Figure out a government that's maybe less repressive, but they're not putting a big emphasis on democracy and elections right now. A column in the Wall Street Journal this morning from Holman Jenkins said the opposition leaders, Machado and others, they should be seizing the initiative, not just going on Hannity, but basically flying back and saying, we won the election, we're in charge, and kind of force the president's hand. I'm not sure that's the best advice I've ever heard. But in any event, Matt Gorman, what are you anticipating? We're always trying to be forward looking. What do you anticipate happening in the Venezuela story, both on the ground in Venezuela, but also here in the United States, say the rest of the week into next week?
I think the Venezuela stuff is going to be focusing on the oil, right? Like, I think they're going to figure out a way. They have 50 million barrels right now. How can they extract more? How can they get an infrastructure in place with these oil companies to have a process to get it through the United States? I think what I'm more interested in is what this means for the other countries. I think you put it exactly right. There's no emphasis on democracy. You're not going to see Venezuelans with the inked finger like you saw in Iraq about 20 years ago voting in elections. You know, what I took note of last weekend, you talked about the deals. It's all a big deal. So how do they get better deals in their mind? Cuba and Colombia, even seizing the Russian ship. Does this affect all the Russian and Ukraine negotiations? That's what I'm seeing some dominoes at hand here, and I would look for in the next 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, Jaime, has the president opened the Pandora's box here, or does you get the sense that Rubio, Miller, and others have this in hand and in control?
No, I don't think anyone has it in hand or under control. And I think the president intended to open the Pandora's box, to be quite frank. What I'm looking forward to seeing, look, you guys know I worked in New Orleans for a large part of my career, and I have spent much time with the oil and gas community. And I know that they're very hard to move. And these individuals plan 20, 50 years down the road. And so they're looking at the president's going to be a lame duck president if he's not already. And so it's going to be really tough for the president to get these oil and gas companies to move in a direction that he wants them to move in as quickly as he does. And that's going to be something that's going to be very telling in a year that the president spent 12 months, bringing the business community as close as possible and started leveraging them as much as he can. But this is going to be a big test for him right now with these oil and gas companies in Venezuela, and to Matt's point, in these other countries as well. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they say and how they actually respond to this, and if they either placate the president or if they are serious about reinstituting operations down there.
100% correct. And they've been in touch with the oil companies forever, not just on Venezuela, but on everything. And as Jaime said, these companies don't want to spend millions or billions trying to build infrastructure, security for their employees and their contractors without some understanding of how this is going to work. And of course, right now, the price of oil is relatively low. Yeah. And so their risk averse is higher to go get a bunch of oil that they can't sell at more than $60 a barrel. It's not part of their economic model. So how is the president in this meeting going to try to incentivize them to do what he wants done? I mean, in a perfect world, from the president's point of view, all the American energy companies would be big on the ground, not just Chevron. Right. They'd be building infrastructure. We'd be helping the Venezuelan people make money, but we'd also be bringing a lot of money back to the U.S. Matt Gorman.
No, look, I think this is something that, this was bubbling up as an issue with oil companies for months. And I think the outreach with the administration has been very strong on this. So while you're right, nobody, I don't think, expected them to go and pull a Noriega on Maduro. They were planning for how can they break this logjam in Venezuela. And so I think they have been planning some sort of operation for this for, 6 to 8 months at least.
Yep. Right? Yep. Okay, let's talk about Greenland. Incredible story. And I want to start with this question, gentlemen. If you were building an AI Danish member of the European Parliament, would you give him a beard? If it's a man, would you give him a beard? It's just like with AI, say, would you give him a
blonde
beard?
One. Only a blonde.
Yeah. You give him a beard. and if you said he's going to appear on cable news in the United States, would you put him in a turtleneck and a blazer? Is that how you dress him?
I think you and I are looking at the same person.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, the Europeans are up in arms. Again, that's incredible irony at a moment when Kushner and Witkoff are in Paris meeting with NATO leaders and finding common cause on building a security structure for one of the two big pieces pending in the Ukraine matter, along with territorial questions. What kind of security guarantees will the Ukrainians get? Great progress there. And at the same time, the President of the United States in the White House last night putting out this provocative statement saying the president might use military force to take to take Greenland. In the midst of all this, CNN books Mr. Vistisen. Anders Vistisen. Here he is on CNN this morning saying he will not be bullied along with his European compatriots.
Rubio downplaying to lawmakers that the threat of military action, saying that the White House, the administration is considering buying Greenland. Does that feel reassuring to you at all?
No, I think it's a signal that the Danish government has not communicated amply clearly to the U.S. administration that the time where powers can buy and sell former colonies, self-governing territories is long gone. It is not something that is feasible. It's not something that can be done. And it's not something that is realistic in any way or form. And to be frank, I think we in Denmark are quite fed up with this attitude from the U.S. administration. And the clear message is that it's not for sale. It's not something you can negotiate about. And you're not going to be able to pressure or bully us
freeze him when he ends.
on this.
Freeze him when he ends. He will not be bullied into submission. Matt, is that beard light enough for you, or is it a little darker than you would do?
Gotta go darker. Gotta go darker. And that's not a flattering angle, too. He needs to go a little higher on that.
Yeah.
That's
Anders. Anyway, take Anders down. As was alluded to there, Secretary Rubio says we're not going to invade a NATO ally's territory. We're just going to use that as leverage. Leverage, his favorite word now, to force a sale. We want to get the Russians and the Chinese out of Greenland. We want to get their rare earth minerals, although they have less than we do, according to a chart I saw this morning. And we want our sphere of influence. It's in our hemisphere. Haima, where is this going? Here's a BBC headline: U.S. discussing options to acquire Greenland, including use of military. That was an incredibly provocative statement the White House put out last night from Caroline Leavitt. But they're not going to use military force. Haima, where are we headed on Greenland?
Look, I don't put anything past President Trump at this point. And what I've been telling Democrats for the last 2 years, if the president says something, we've got to believe him to a certain extent. And so I think he's going to do everything he can to acquire or to ruffle feathers in Europe and bring Greenland as close as possible. I think what's been the issue with President Trump over the last 12 months is, under the umbrella of America First, some of these things may sound, pretty fine or even good. But there doesn't seem to be a grand plan to bring all of this together. It doesn't seem like he has a vision, or Stephen Miller, President Miller, or Council Miller, whatever we're calling
Prime Minister or Chancellor.
Prime Minister
or
Stephen
Chancellor.
Miller, Chancellor. Yeah, doesn't seem like they have a vision for this and a big plan. So what we're doing is we're alienating these European allies at a time that is not advantageous for us. And we have Russia and China. Those two adversaries are growing stronger every day, particularly China. And so I think the president's got to be a little bit more forward thinking, Stephen Miller, and think past just this term, past just this year. And then maybe we can have that conversation. But I think as it stands, they're going to do everything that they can to acquire Greenland. And we ought to take it seriously.
Matt Gorman, the Thune, Speaker Johnson, Rich Lowry, many people in the president's orbit, pundits and members of Congress are like, no, we're not going to invade. I mean, the Danes and the Europeans can have their hair on fire and their panties in a wad over this, but this is just leverage, and shouldn't they just be negotiating for the best deal they can get?
They're doing us such a favor by freaking out over this and thinking, whether it's Democrats, whether it's Europeans, thinking we're all going to roll in like Patton into Greenland. I don't have kids, but I've been around them enough that the parents out there, like, you ever have kids, and the hardest part is, like, I'm making this up, if you count, like, don't make me count to 3, because on 3 there's going to be real consequences here. And the hardest thing is, if I've seen this, if the kids don't take you seriously, they know you're full of it, and they know you're going to get to 3, and nothing's going to really happen. So you're like, by the Democrats and Europeans freaking out about thinking we're going to actually military invade Greenland, it just helps our positioning so much, because it convinces people that we're actually going to do it.
Yeah.
And so, like, the worst thing in the world would be if we posture and say, hey, look, we essentially want to cut a deal for Greenland. Let's be honest. We want to cut a deal with Greenland, sharing rare earths, like we tried to do this in Ukraine. Like, we want to pull certain levers to make sure the Russians and Chinese are out and we can get it. But the fact that they're helping our leverage in this, thank you. Please keep it out.
Three things in response to that. Number one, all over Washington now, there's a text chain of Matt Gorman's male and female friends saying, "Can you believe Matt Gorman's telling a story about how to behave with children?" Like nobody can believe it. Number two, I couldn't agree with you more. They should be laughing at this. They should be saying a NATO country is not going to invade a NATO country and laughing it off. But number three, I'll say, the president, if people don't think the president's serious about controlling the entire hemisphere, they're not paying attention. He's determined to do it. And the Danes can say all they want, that they don't want this to happen. But I go back to what we talked about on round one of this, which is if the people of Greenland don't want to be aligned with the U.S., it can't happen. And so that trip that Don Jr. took, like, they need more of that, it seems to me. They need more of winning the hearts and minds of the Greenlanders.
Yeah,
right?
But even if what you and Matt are saying is true, I mean, at the end of the day, this is dangerous rhetoric and dangerous leverage to have. I mean, this is no way for a president of the United States of America, someone who wants to be the world superpower superstar, to act. And so even if he is lying through his teeth and using leverage, it's just a stupid thing to say and a stupid thing to do. And I don't think the president, R. Stephen Miller, should continue to perpetuate that.
Okay, so we always want to differentiate, Haim. I take your point between what is and what ought to be. And I know you're saying this isn't the way it should be. But what is, and we saw this over the weekend, the president just wants gangsta foreign policy. He just wants to threaten people. He wants to say, what's mine is mine and what's yours we'll negotiate over. And so we can decry it, but that's the foreign policy now of this administration. And if he makes idle threats or serious threats, it's up to the people who are being threatened to decide. Again, I'm not endorsing gangster foreign policy. I'm just saying that's what we have now, and nobody can stop him. There's no one in the administration who wants to stop him. The Hill can't stop him, but he's not. I love the Politico story that said the U.S. military could take the capital of Greenland in 30 minutes with a couple helicopters.
They're doing our bidding.
Yes,
and also, like, specifically, and with respect, Haim, like, specifically right now, what is dangerous right now about what is happening right now?
Thank you. That's the question. Haim, what is dangerous about it? He's just
the fact that we're having this conversation about a NATO ally is dangerous. The fact that the president just went down to Venezuela and granted, I'm no Maduro fan. I'm not gonna say he should have left in Venezuela, but the fact that he went down and kidnapped the president and his wife, I mean, these are dangerous tactics. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Matt and I want to know what's dangerous. What's in danger? Well, the danger part is if you're having this conversation about a NATO ally. And when we're going to Europe and trying to have conversations about saving Ukraine and ending a war in Russia and preparing for what's going to be a really tough 5-10 years with China, that's why it's dangerous. This is a conversation that is leaving America in a place of vulnerability when we're talking about our other allies. So and it's an unnecessary conversation. You know, we can go into Greenland and have an adult conversation about minerals, about partnership, about leveraging what we've already established together. But there's no need for a deranged Donald Trump and a deranged Stephen Miller to go on TV every day and threaten to take Greenland. I mean, there's no benefit of it.
But if we have a simple conversation, we go to the Danes and say, hey, we'd like a piece of that, they'll say no.
Yeah.
I guess my point that's part of diplomacy. I mean, this has been something that we've dealt with since time has existed. And so just because the Danes are saying no doesn't mean that that's not worth having a full conversation. I mean, look what's going on in Ukraine. Russia is taking more of Ukraine every single day. That should be the priority of the conversation, not taking Greenland for a couple minerals. I mean, we're wasting time by having that conversation, and that's dangerous.
So I guess my to put a button on it. So you think, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so help me out here. So you think, though, that by kind of talking tough on Greenland, the Europeans are going to turn away from us when it comes to Ukraine and Russia?
We're not talking tough on Greenland. We're threatening to take Greenland away. That's so Matt. So don't.
We're talking.
I mean, we're not talking tough. We're talking about taking a sovereign country.
Tough talk.
And so and the fact that we're talking about this morning, we're talking about tariffs and costs. I'm so annoyed by that, just personally. And so, quite frankly, it's an unhelpful conversation on all fronts.
You speak for tens of millions, and Matt does, or Matt speaks for at least me, because I just agree with Matt. And again, I don't read the chat. I glance at it. I'm not endorsing the president's tactics or strategy here. I'm just describing what's happening, and I'm saying just what I believe is true, that the administration believes is true. If they just simply tried to engage in diplomacy, the Danes would say, "Pound sand. We're not giving you Greenland. You have no basis to take it." And the president's view is not just for the rare earth minerals and not to be belligerent, but to get Russia and China out of this hemisphere, to make sure that the United States is not, for the next 50 years, having to devote blood and treasure to fighting incursions from China and Russia, particularly China in our hemisphere. Now's the time to make a change. Again, that's what they're doing. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just describing what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's fine, well and good. If the president was serious about taking on Russia and China, he would have a multi-pronged strategy that does not only include taking over Greenland. I am all for, I say this all the time, I'm on this show. You guys know, I am all for preparing for what's going on in China, and I am all for getting Russia, pushing them back across the line. If that's a part of the strategy, a multi-pronged strategy, I think that's fine, but it's not. And it's haphazard. It's completely, in some ways, deranged as a conversation. And so if they have a strategy for Russia and for China, then look, let's have a conversation about it. Most Americans would be pro that, but that's not the case.
But I say respectfully, it is the case. That's what Maduro is about. That's what Greenland is about. That's what Ukraine is about. They're trying to find a way to get leverage over China and Russia, and this is a piece of it. Not just the rare earths, but the territorial safety of getting them out of the hemisphere where they're doing all sorts of stuff. All right, again, we can talk about this forever. Great conversation. Let's try to do these next few real quick. House majority. I said this half jokingly to someone this morning. The House Republicans should appropriate money to put a physician with every House Republican. They can't afford anybody else getting sick or having an accident or whatever, because there's a danger that they'll lose the majority. And certainly now every vote is harder, although when you get down to smaller majorities, we've talked about the irony of that and the paradox of that. The smaller the majority, in some ways, the easier it is to win a vote, because there's no such thing as a coalition to try to bargain for more. Everybody has to vote yes. So how big a crisis is this for the House Republicans now? 0 is no crisis, 10 is existential crisis. How big a crisis is the margin right now for votes, Matt Gorman, 0 to 10?
Yeah, guy, number wise, I don't know, but it's a pretty big crisis. Like it.
All right. I'm going to say it's a 7. We got to move on. I'm a number 7 or higher.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah. Okay. Healthcare. Is there going to be a let me ask it this way, Jaime. If there is a healthcare deal on extending the subsidies, and the Senate's got a pretty good package now, they haven't revealed their finesse on the abortion issue, but they claim to have one. If there's going to be a deal, is it Senate passage that jams the House, and the Speaker can get enough Republican votes to put it on the floor? Is that the path, if there is one?
I think it has to be at this point. I think that's the only way.
Yeah. Matt, do you agree with that?
I think it's going to be a flip. I was talking to somebody in the Senate last night. What they said is, watch for the Senate's going to be able to pass more conservative stuff with a bigger margin. The House isn't going to be able to. The House is going to moderate because of the margin more than anything else.
Yep. So remember, tomorrow probably there'll be a vote based on the discharge petition on the a relatively clean extension of the subsidies. There's been different predictions at the time the discharge petition went through about how many House Republicans will vote for that. If it's north of 30, which it still could be, that provides more momentum for whatever develops here in the Senate or House compromise. Iran the government there continues to struggle with suppressing dissent, and is much more sensitive to not shooting people in the streets than they've been during the past 2 rounds of this. They really seem concerned. Here's the headline from the AP. Iran Army chief threatens preemptive attack over rhetoric targeting country after Trump's comments. They're very concerned about interest in what happened in Venezuela. There's reporting that the Iranian leadership is worried that the president of the United States is going to come in and snatch folks. So my question is on Iran is, what's your spidey sense? Because nobody knows. We could have David Ignatius and Henry Kissinger, and they wouldn't know. Is this going to be the time the Iranian regime topples, or will they suppress it, Jaime?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm bullish on this being close to the end for the president over there and moving forward. But I don't know. Things have gotten weird all over the world recently. But I'm bullish on this being close to the end.
Amazing. By the way, before Matt answers on his spidey sense on this, that's what I think, and that's what a lot of experts I've talked to in the last 2 days say. They really do think this feels different, in part because of the reaction of the government. Matt.
I think also the fact that the relationship with Israel, I could see something happening where Trump gets a message, whether it's to Iran or one of its proxies in the region, and says, look, get the F out right now, or I can't control what the hell Bibi does. Like, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I could see something like that where they play a little good cop, bad cop.
Okay. I quickly again on Ukraine. I mentioned earlier very positive vibes coming out of the talks, but a lot of about the security agreements with the United States and Europe, but very pessimistic. A lot of people are still very pessimistic about Putin and whether he'll accept anything. So Matt, same thing, just on your spidey sense. Are we headed towards a European-U.S. deal with Ukraine that then Putin rejects? Is that where we're headed?
I don't foresee any movement on that yet. I don't. I think the Russia thing, the boat is a step in that direction, but I don't think we're anywhere close.
Yeah.
Hi, Haima.
I fully agree, Matt.
Okay. All right. Epstein. Here is Mr. Massey last night explaining his outrage, not just about the slow pace of the disclosure of documents in violation of a law signed into law by the president, passed by Congress, but also the nature of the redactions in the documents that have already been released. Cue Mr. Massey, please.
For the fact that these Epstein files still, there are millions of more documents that they're still reviewing at this point.
If this were a private law firm with 5% of the resources of the DOJ, this would have been done by the deadline. And they just missed another deadline, which is the report to Congress, which is supposed to list all of the politicians that are in their files. And also, they're supposed to justify all the redactions 15 days after the first 30-day window. But the biggest problem isn't that they're missing the deadlines, it's what they're redacting. So they're citing the Privacy Act, and they're trying to pretend like that overrides a law that we just passed that says you can't withhold records to prevent embarrassment. They're also citing FOIA standards, which don't apply to our law when they're trying to say that they don't have to release internal decisions. But our bill specifically says release internal decisions.
So what are you going to do about it?
We're looking at that.
Matt, what happens on this next?
Let me put it this way. That was the most Washington, lawyerly, legalistic answer. We're talking about FOIAs. We're talking about deadlines. We'll see about it. Look, regardless of what you think about the Epstein stuff, answers like that, line of questioning like that is not going to put this back in the front page if folks who are opponents of President Trump or whatever want to get back in the front page.
So what do you think? What happens next?
If that's where they are right now, talking about deadlines and 5%. No.
Okay, Haima, what happens next?
I think we're still going to keep talking about it. I'm not sure, Matt, and maybe other Republicans. Why won't they just take this off the table? This Epstein conversation is going to continue to grow legs and continue to be a talking point for the next couple months. And I think what's going to happen next is as we get into these Republican primaries, a lot of these candidates are going to have to start making a choice on where they stand on this. And this is going to be something that's going to be talked about in the states and the districts. I don't know if it's going to be a national conversation every day, but it's going to continue to be a conversation that's going to be happening in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Michigan. And I don't know why Republicans won't just dead this.
We still don't really know. All right, 3 more topics. Enter your questions again. If you want to end the conversation, please raise your hand. We ended the year with Gavin Newsom having dominated the 2028 sweepstakes in 2025, the clear frontrunner, leaning more into the possibility of running than he had before, winning the ballot measure, dominating the news cycle, challenging the president, just by almost every metric and moving up in the polls as well. 2 developments with Gavin Newsom in the last 24 hours gives us an opportunity to revisit the question with our co-hosts here about whether he is still the clear frontrunner. One is a profile in The Atlantic by a British reporter, Helen Lewis. I recommend you read it. If you're familiar with Gavin Newsom's bio, you won't learn much, but he engaged. She reveals a lot of the little tricks he uses to seduce reporters, and I say seduce in a professional and clinical way. He does a bunch of stuff, like he texts her back right away. He gabs with her. He opens the kimono a little bit. There's lots in there. If you want to understand the inside of how Gavin Newsom tries to get reporters on his side, she does a good job on that. I will say her knowledge of American history and politics is not at the top shelf of someone who I would assign to write a profile of Gavin Newsom, but she got incredible access. I recommend it to you. Then yesterday, this is a little complicated of a story. I'll explain it somewhat elliptically. Benny Johnson said, what will I call Benny? A conservative provocateur and content creator, said he was going to go to California and look for welfare fraud in California and nonprofit fraud in California. And Gavin Newsom's highly Trump style Twitter feed, X feed, sent something back which seemed to be a reference to accusations made previously about Mr. Johnson's personal life. That's all I'll say. You can look it up yourself. But again, they continue to use that feed in a very provocative manner. Haima Moore, where do we stand now with Gavin Newsom 28? Is he the champion frontrunner, currently far and away the frontrunner, or has the star dimmed? Where do you put him now?
Yeah, look, I say this first thing. If I ever get a profile written, I would love for Helen to write one for me. It was.
Do you know her?
No, I don't, but it was glowing.
Okay. It was glowing. It was glowing.
glowing.
You, as we say in the spirit of the season, you would even say it glows.
It glows. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look, I think we're moving to phase two of the mini Democratic primary, and Gavin Newsom clearly won the first phase. Now, what's going to happen over the next few months and few weeks is he is the front runner, and so everyone's going to pile on, both conservatives, and now you're going to start seeing some Democrats start to point out things about Gavin Newsom that they don't like.
Yep.
Or that they want to have a second look at. So I think what's going to happen, Kamala Harris is still a big deal, and I only bring her up in this conversation, one, because of California. Two, I do think that she's moving closer to making a decision on running, which means that she and Gavin Newsom are going to have some sort of West Coast, California mini primary within themselves. And that's going to be a really big testing point for Gavin Newsom. How does he emerge as the victor over Kamala Harris? He's going to need Black women to become the nominee. She's a Black woman. She did a great job with Black women in this past election, but he's going to need that demographic. And so how hard is he going to go after her? How is he going to differentiate himself from her? How is he going to emerge as someone who's going to be a better option for Democrats? And so this thing is not over yet. I think he won phase one. Phase two, he is winning right now, but the slope is a little bit slipperier than it was last time. Now, granted, he's no Tim Walz, and he's not going to be taken advantage of as Tim Walz, as we just saw happen, and he's not going to be mirrored in those types of scandals, I don't believe. And he's a much better political athlete than Tim Walz and than most governors. So I think that's going to be the second thing. The third thing, my last point is, if Amy Klobuchar does run for governor in Minnesota and she becomes the governor, she gets back into that conversation a little bit more for 2028 than she is right now. And she's going to be a part of the DGA. She's going to be a thorn in the side of a lot of governors. She's very smart. She's very astute. And she's going to want to appeal to an electorate that Gavin Newsom also wants to appeal to. And so this is far from over for Gavin Newsom.
Brilliant. Everything you all, if you didn't pay close attention to that, go back and listen to it once it's on YouTube, because that was super brilliant. The best analysis I've heard of where we stand overall and with Newsom. So thank you for that. All I'll say is we should be more explicit. Gavin Newsom is not the nominee de facto, but he did win the Helen Lewis primary. Without a doubt. Matt Gorman, right now in my life, I've got Republicans who say Newsom can't win the nomination. If he somehow did, he can't possibly win a general. And I've got Republicans saying Newsom's made it clear now he's the most formidable general election candidate the Democrats have. Which is correct?
Neither right now. Look, I don't. First of all, in my opinion, I think the Klobuchar thing is a VP play, but we can set that aside for a second. Yeah. I think if the only thing standing between Gavin and the nomination is Kamala Harris, then it's an easier road for Gavin than we actually think. But then I will say this: that screenshot you guys just put up earlier with the front runner, oh my God, that's either going to be the most pressured thing ever or it's going to be laughed at. I remember back in 2015, Dave Catney, so I think he's at the Daily Mail right now, wrote this piece about the coming clash between Jeb Bush and Scott Walker, and people post it as a kind of a joke and a meme now. So, and look, the Helen Lewis thing is smart because if you make it off the top of my head, if you bring a Molly Ball out there, I think she's with the Wall Street Journal, or other folks who have like a really deep knowledge of American politics, who are really smart and sharp, then they're going to ask a lot tougher questions. And no disrespect, than a British person who can be quote unquote seduced by all of that.
Yeah,
by
yes,
the
sir.
accent, right?
Yes, sir. 100%.
So that was a very smart move.
Yep.
But I will say this: if I would not want that headline out there if I'm Gavin Newsom's team right now. The front runner, that's the only place you can go is one direction.
Except history shows, I say this all the time, the front runner almost always, with the exception of Hillary 2008, when there's been a front runner, they've been the nominee every time since Mondale. Every time.
But at what point the front runner?
The first front runner, the first person named the front runner has been the nominee every time. When there's been one, with the exception,
on the Democratic side.
On the Democratic side,
what I would posit is, and again, this is a longer treatise. I think we are in a post 2012 world where we were with the GOP, where I think that was true to a point. I think what you're going to see is a fundamental reckoning from the last couple primaries, from 16 with Hillary, 20, 24.
Maybe if there's a strong progressive candidate, maybe, and they don't steal it the way they did from Bernie twice. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We were going to talk about Rahm Emanuel. We were going to talk about the Senate. We're going to do those tomorrow. We'll get video of Rahm from Mississippi. We'll do it tomorrow, and there's no reason we have to talk about the Senate today. I've got some reporting I wanted to share, but I'll do it tomorrow. A quick word from a sponsor, then to your questions. Stand by. Raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. The folks at Cozy Earth are back as a sponsor in 2026. We're glad to have them. 20% off everything on the site. Same promo code, 2WMM, CozyEarth.com. Holidays are over, but the deals are still here. 20% off everything on the site. 2WMM is your promo code for the bamboo sheets, for the bubble cuddle blanket, where you can lose yourself in luxury, ladies and gentlemen. And your pets will love it too, by the way. Not explicitly made for animals, but they do love the bubble cuddle blanket. The bamboo sheets are the softest sheets I've ever owned. And of course, the pants, and I continue to wear the pants everywhere. I'm going to wear them to dinner tonight at a restaurant where the entrees cost more than $42 a piece, and no one will look at me and say, why are you wearing pants that you previously wore to the beach? Because they are that versatile and that comfortable. Give the gift of luxury. Make every moment comfortable. Buy yourself a pair of pants. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be silly. CozyEarth.com, promo code 2WMM. When you get to the post-purchase survey, tell them Matt Gorman sent you, or the morning meeting, whichever you prefer. Again, give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy new year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Matt Casey, welcome in. Tell people who don't know. Oops, hit the wrong button. I'm a moron. See if I can fix things. Here we go. Matt Casey. Here we go. Welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Matt and Haima. Happy New Year, and thank you for being part of Two Way.
Hey, Happy New Year. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great, great. Hey, I'm calling from the Netherlands, so I'm in the belly of the beast here in Europe right now.
How many mustard-colored turtlenecks do you own?
Not enough to fit in over here, but we're working on it. I've lived here about half my life, so.
Where do you live when you live in America?
Well, I'm from Iowa originally.
Iowa. Where in Iowa?
Sioux City.
Sioux City, beautiful place. Great Mexican food, by the way.
Hey, you're the first one I've ever heard say that, but good. Yeah, it is nice.
All right, welcome, Matt. Thank you for being part of Two Way. What's on your mind for Matt and for Haima?
Yeah. I just wanted to see here. I'm looking at what everybody's saying about Greenland, and I'm just a bit curious of where everybody thinks that's going to end up. I think over here, everything online is a bit, it's not really what you see online. I think most people here, I think they actually like Trump. I think they actually like what's going on. I think the news will make it seem like it's a bit crazier than it actually is. But I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see when that. I think they're going to take it over, but I just was curious if you guys all thought that that's going to happen here in the next couple months.
Is it getting a lot of coverage in Europe?
It does. But like if you look on X, I think you only hear the loudest people, but it's not.
Are people talking about it in pubs?
Sometimes they always ask me what I think of it, but if I say I like what Trump is doing, they tend to agree, to be honest.
Well, tell us more about that. They agree with what Trump's doing specifically on Greenland or just in general?
I think for the most part, people have kind of woken up to this is just how he negotiates. It's just his tactic. It's his playbook time and time again. And the people in America will say, "Oh, the tariffs is causing a rift between NATO and the EU." No, people were smart enough to realize that's just how he talks, and he has a bigger thing in mind. So, but it is crazy. I live in the most liberal city on earth, Amsterdam. I would say 95% of my friends are Trump supporters, and they're all Dutch.
Why?
It's grown exponentially. Before, if you were to take online, if you just see the amount of people that follow him online, it is crazy. The amount of people that like the stuff. People, my friends here, I would never think they liked it, but you can see that they like all of his posts. They do all of his stuff. It
What
is
do they like
growing.
about him? I'm curious.
Say it again. Say it again, Matt.
Sorry,
Matt
what do they
Gorman.
like about him? Like policy, personality. What's the intrigue?
We're about the most direct people on earth over here. So Trump, in a way, he's just very direct. But also, we have the same problems over here that America does. Immigration is a huge thing. People don't want to talk about it. In America, people will be a lot louder about it. Here, people are kind of still scared to talk about it, but that's fading because we're seeing, especially, I don't know if you guys saw the stuff that happened over here on New Year's with the fire and so it's people are now kind of getting fed up that, hey, maybe all these I want to say it politely, but like inviting all these people into the country wasn't necessarily a good idea. And Trump has been saying this for years. And now people are saying, okay, this guy has a point. You know, you can hate him for how brash he is, but people are really coming around to him.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt. Gorman.
And look, and to go back to the Ukraine stuff too, like Vance talked about this earlier in the year, like his team has a very concrete thought process where, look, the public doesn't like the immigration that's increasing these European countries. They try to buy them off with more social services. So there's not enough money to go around to do that and shore up their defense for Ukraine.
Yeah. Look, and Matt Casey, I agree. I was in the Netherlands last year, in Amsterdam last year. I studied abroad in Liège, Belgium. So I've spent a lot of time in the Netherlands. And I think, and you're actually right. I was annoyed by it personally, but I saw so many Make America Great Again hats when I was in Amsterdam last year. I was surprised by it. And I think you guys are all right. It's all based on immigration. I mean, and I think the thing about tariffs, and I think the thing why Americans are talking about it all the time, it's not for Americans right now. They don't care about NATO. It's not about NATO. It's about costs. It's about paying too much for sneakers and socks and t-shirts and coffee and things like that. Most Americans don't really have a big international thought or opinion. So it's interesting that a lot of Europeans have so much opinion on Donald Trump. Most Americans don't think about the president of the Netherlands and don't even know who the person is. But I think to your point and to Matt Gorman's point, President Trump is a cultural phenomenon, and that is just growing. And I've seen it myself. It's growing across the country. It's growing across Europe. It really is true.
It's our biggest cult. The MAGA hat is the biggest cultural export from the United States into Europe since Janet Jackson's Control.
My neighbor just got me one right before Christmas Christmas. A new MAGA hat.
Yes, the three. Go ahead, man.
Can you wear it out? Like, do you see people wearing MAGA hats out regularly?
Yeah.
In Sweden, you can. In Sweden, you can. Here, I would. Okay, there's a lot of transplants here in Amsterdam, so a lot of people aren't. If you get outside of Amsterdam, you would be welcome with it. Maybe in Amsterdam it might be a little bit tricky.
Matt, you know, sometimes in Amsterdam there's like 30 people riding bikes like all in a pack together. You could do that if they all wore the hat. You could get away with it if you had strength in numbers. I don't know.
I don't know. I keep it tucked away in my bedroom.
All right, let's follow through on Matt's original question. Matt, thank you for leading and inspiring the great conversation. Jaime, how do you think that this is going to end with Greenland? Do you think it will end with a sale or some sort of negotiation of mineral rights? What do you think? And more military?
I think a little bit of all the above, but I think ultimately the President Trump will get what he wants out of this. I just can't see him losing, quote unquote, losing on this particular scenario.
Matt Gorman, do you agree?
There'll be some sort of agreement. Yeah. And he'll go over there, shake a big hand, big photo ops. It'll be smiles all around.
Yeah. Matt Casey, thank you for coming. We'd love having you. Please come back regularly. Grateful to you.
Thanks, guys.
I do love Sioux City.
Me too. And
It
it
is.
does
It's
have good Mexican
underrated.
food.
It
It
is.
does have good Mexican food.
It
And the hotels,
does
there's some
have
cool
good Mexican food.
hotels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
Try
place.
Fairfield, Iowa. There's even better Mexican food there.
Really? One place or lots of places?
Lots of places. And it's a Maharaji school there, so there's a lot of different types of food there.
Where is Fairfield? I don't even know where that is.
Oh God, is it Johnson County?
Johnson County?
I've forgotten my 99 counties now, so
Yeah.
don't test me.
I'll tell you a quick thing. One time I was in a private plane. I won't say what candidate or what campaign, coming back from Iowa, and the pilot had some bad Mexican food. Let's just say those private planes are very small. It was not a fun flight.
Okay,
Oh, no.
That's a good caution. John, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two Way. Welcome and Happy New Year. Tell folks where you are and what's on your mind for Haima and for Matt.
Well, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where I am. Transplant here like a lot of other people, but I've been here for 20 years. So,
where's that great accent of yours from? In the Northeast?
New York City. New York City.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Well, welcome, and tell us what's on your mind.
What's on my mind is I don't mean to be naive, but going to Venezuela, I'm struck. When will Marco Rubio and or Donald Trump get around to, do you think, starting a process toward democracy? There's been no call, for example. I understand dealing with the current regime. I understand that, but what about, for example, calling for the release of political prisoners?
Yeah.
Or some kind of gesture, some kind of demand, in that vein.
Yeah, great question, John. I'll go to Matt first, but I'll say not anytime soon. They're in no rush. Matt Gorman.
I don't think they're not really focused on it right now. I think if anything, it is a further chip. Let's pretend that Delcy Rodriguez isn't doing what they need to do. Like, okay, fine. You have 24 hours where we're calling for elections and we're having Guaido and Corrado head to neighboring nations. It's all, if they need to, if they can use to ramp up the pressure.
Yeah.
Haima.
I don't disagree with Matt Gorman at all.
Okay. John, thank you. I'll just say, like, Marco Rubio would like Venezuela to be democratic and like fair and free elections, but their indications are the best thing now is to keep the thugs in control, as long as the thugs are playing ball on the economic stuff, and to try to get the economy back up and running, and then turn to democracy. And I think they'll be for new elections rather than validating the previous ones, would be my sense from talking to folks.
And Mark, the one thing I will say is, and so Secretary Rubio is a brilliant, and we differ on politics a lot, but we have to remember he's a brilliant man. He's studied these particular issues for a very long time, and so he's very attuned, I think, to this more so than even President Trump and JD Vance. And so I'm particularly looking to see how Marco Rubio handles this.
Yep, and they're very deferential to him because of that expertise he has. A tweet from the Secretary of Homeland Security about the Coast Guard efforts to interdict not one ship, it turns out, but two. There's some video that goes along with this. I'll read you a little bit of the Secretary Noem's tweet. In two pre-dawn operations today, the Coast Guard conducted back-to-back meticulously coordinated boarding of two Ghost Fleet tanker ships, one in the North Atlantic Sea and one in international waters near the Caribbean. Both vessels, the motor tank, sorry, I'm getting a source calling me here. Motor tanker Bella 1 and the motor tanker Sophia, beautiful names for these ships. Here you can see some video, if you're watching us on YouTube or X, of the ship. Boy, that looks like a video game to me. Is that a real video? That looks like a Saturday Night Live spoof of something. Both ships were either last docked in Venezuela or en route to it. She praises President Trump. Then she says, the world's criminals are on notice. You can run, but you can't hide. Here's another tweet from this is from the White House. U.S. Energy Secretary says Washington will take over the sale of Venezuelan crude with funds deposited in a U.S.-controlled account to benefit the Venezuelan people. So this is a little bit more detail than we got from the president yesterday. This is from a Bloomberg reporter who says the details are very unclear, but it seems to signal Trump would allow large imports of Venezuelan crude. Again, fleshing out what the president said last night. All right, let's see if we can get one more question in here briefly, quickly. Mark, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind as you're there, flanked by two of your pals. There you go.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mark.
And Happy New Year, the Next Way community, or Two Way. So my comment I'd like to hear from you about is kind of going off, Mark, on your wonderful monologue last night on Next Up about Marco Rubio, and also going off of what you just said, Jaime, too. So now I don't want you to ask if this would happen, but just say this did happen, like a thought experiment. So we're given an announcement. J.D. Vance is going to make an announcement. All the press turns out, and they think he's going to announce his candidacy. But instead, he says, I have 3 young kids. I don't want to disrupt their lives moving into the White House. They're very nice here at the Naval Observatory with 200, acres or whatever. So I'm not running. Then Marco Rubio steps up and he goes, I am running. So Marco says, I'm running, and I would pick JD as my running mate for a vice president again. So this is what's happened. And you comment on this. And just some of the dynamics I'm thinking of, JD wins the hearts of all mothers by giving it up for his kids. Marco Rubio, the first Latin American, Cuban American to run for president. If you don't vote for him, you're a racist. Marco has been right there next to Trump during all these foreign policy successes, while JD hasn't really, because they try to keep them separate. So this is just the setup. Instead of, and I love JD. I mean, I want to see him with Turning Point. I want to see him owning those Sunday talk show people like he does so brilliantly. And I just think the dynamics of the race, Marco could resign and go full time. Whereas if JD can't resign, and also his first question, every single question from the press is going to be the View question. How are you different than Trump? How are you different? And I think that Trump's stink, if it's still there, will be more on Vance than on Marco. So
yeah. All right, Mark, fascinating hypothetical. I'll say 2 things about it, then turn it over to Matt and Hyman to comment. First of all, your hypothetical is as likely as Matt Gorman adopting triplets tomorrow. That's
not the question. It's
I understand. Yeah, and then second is just one annotation on your otherwise I thought excellent outline, which is the vice president's heavily involved in foreign policy. A lot of it's behind the scenes, but he is heavily involved in every foreign policy.
I'll give you that.
Okay. So Matt Gorman, how do you like Mark's hypothetical?
I mean, look, it's fun to BS about. I don't think it's very realistic.
That's not the question.
I know, but like I can imagine what it's like to have dragons flying around here. But like it doesn't matter. I think with respect, I think Marco, the evolution of Marco from 2015, 2016 Marco running for president, joking about Trump's hand and other appendage size, to now is nothing like we've ever seen before. I think, people, read into separation between Trump and Vance, Trump and Rubio, Vance and Rubio at their own peril. I think these are far more connected, far more in touch than I think we give them credit for. And so I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
And look, I'm incredibly biased here because I just don't enjoy the vice president at all, and I've been a secret liberal fan of Marco for quite some time now, less now than I used to be. But look, I was talking to my colleague Mike Reed about this last week, who used to run Mike Matt really well, who ran the communications at the RNC, and I came in just like you, Mark, and I said, oh my God, I think Marco's going to be the nominee. And he goes, no. That's just not a lot of these party politics are still inside baseball. And what JD Vance has done such a great job in doing is when Marco's running around the world, JD Vance is in the country, talking to donors, talking to RNC committee meeting members, talking to the state party chairs, and he's actually helping run the apparatus of the Republican Party in a way that's going to be really beneficial for him. Secondly, what's going to happen, and this happened with Hillary Clinton back when she was Secretary of State, JD Vance is going to be able to run around the country this year and campaign in every battleground state for every battleground member of Congress, for the Senate, for the governors. Marco Rubio cannot do that because he can't do those type of domestic politics. And so JD Vance you're going to start seeing him having even more of an advantage this year. And he's going to make a lot of friends. You know, he's a guy from the Senate, so he's going to make a lot of congressional friends. And so he's eons ahead of Marco toward the nomination.
But that's again
Now,
not
Mark,
a question.
understand, Mark. Our answer would be if the hypothetical happened, all bets would be off. But what you've laid out as a hypothetical, if it happened, there's a logic to it, and he would be a very strong candidate for the reasons you
Formidable.
said.
Yep.
He'd be very strong for the reasons you said. Mark, thank you. Grateful to you. Sorry, all three of us have problems with the hypotheticals like that. Our brains don't quite function that way. All right. Thanks for mentioning my monologue again. The new episode of Next Up available now, podcast and on YouTube. Great conversation with Kevin Walling and Kristen Davison about the Democrats and the year ahead in politics. Jessica Reed Krause and I talk about how she does what she does, and my monologue on Marco Rubio and how he went from a Trump opponent 10 years ago to now being so influential in the administration. If you want to know what I'm doing the rest of the morning, besides annotating the transcripts of all the smack in the chat, I'm going to be on some Merconish now, so I got to go in a moment. On with Megyn Kelly later, on two-way tonight at 6 o'clock tonight. At noon, Citizen McCain. Megyn remains on maternity leave, but the special episode, Nikki Schwab will be on, Sina Gazvai, and of course, Miranda has you covered. Miranda is sitting in for Megyn while Megyn is out. And we will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
See you.